Amen. All right, let's try this again. So I read an opinion piece by a woman, Tamar Haspel, in the Washington Post this summer, where she encouraged Americans to start eating horses. No kidding, horses. Okay, that doesn't bother you. In particular, she wants Americans to start eating wild horses. And here's the backstory, and I was unaware of this. Apparently, wild horses are wreaking havoc on the American West. And there have been a problem for decades. These herds reproduce quickly, they're destroying the land, and and as a result, they're often starving. And so for the past 4 years, the Bureau of Land Management has been rounding up horses. In the last 4 years, over 46,000 of them, and less than half of them find adoptive homes, and so the rest live in BLM holding facilities. So right now there are about 60,000 of these horses in facilities, and they cost taxpayers about $100 million a year to take care of these horses. So she argues that we should start eating these horses. And you might guess where she's going with this. So if we eat these horses, it will save millions of dollars. It will save the land because they produce a bunch of methane. It will slow down climate change. And so it's a sort of win-win-win situation, unless you're one of the horses, because then you get eaten. So the problem, I think, here is that Americans have a particular affection for certain animals, and horses, as well as dogs and cats and gerbils and guinea pigs and some birds are in that category. So it seems heartless that we would eat Black Beauty or Trigger or Shadowfax or Spirit. And the truth is, it's really hard to eat any animal once you've given them a name. But of course, other cultures have no problem eating horses or dogs or cats or even monkeys. So no joke, this is no joke. Years ago, a member of one of my churches was traveling in Peru and came across a painting of the Last Supper in a cathedral there. And in this depiction of the Last Supper, Jesus and his disciples are sharing a meal, and on the table is bread and wine, we're used to that, corn and fruit, and a roasted guinea pig, right there on the communion table. So apparently guinea pig has been a staple food in the Andean culture for centuries. And so to one culture, a guinea pig might be a child's beloved pet, and to another, a guinea pig is a sacred meal. So I think, to be honest, our aversion to eating animals that we call pets is really just culturally dictated. So I think it's probably fair to ask ourselves, why am I okay eating a cow and not okay with eating a horse? Or why do I care more about the suffering of a dog than I do about the suffering of a pig? We might even ask ourselves, why do we allow the mistreatment of any animals on this earth? So the Genesis story that MK read for us, I think, offers us some insights and guidance here. So for one thing, when God is done creating humans, God says this to us: I have given you every plant yielding seed and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And then God says something very similar about the animals. And to every beast of the earth and every bird of the air and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food. So for both humans and for animals, God has provided in the garden a vegetarian diet. So I have to say this, I don't really believe that Genesis 1 is some kind of vegetarian and vegan or vegan manifesto, but I think it's worth noticing that there is no killing of animals at the beginning of the creation story. That happens later, after what we call the fall of humans. So it's as if the Garden of Eden that God created for us, intended for us, and for animals, was initially, anyway, free from any kind of violence. Now Genesis 1 does say that God gives us dominion over animals, and some have argued that that means we can do anything we want with or to animals. But a case can be made about this word dominion and how it's used in the Hebrew Bible, and that dominion could be understood more like caretaking, like God has dominion over this whole earth, but God has dominion as a caretaker. So for instance, in Psalm 72, the same Hebrew word is used to describe the way the king of Israel will rule and care for his people. And so in that psalm, this is what dominion looks like. May he, this is the king, may he judge your people with righteousness and your poor with justice. May he defend the cause of the poor of the people and give deliverance to the needy. May he be, I love this part, may he be like rain that falls on green grass. This is the king. May the king be like rain that falls on green grass, like showers that water the earth. In his days may righteousness flourish and peace abound until the moon is no more. So wow, what an image of a king, of a ruler, who is like rain that falls on the grass, watering the earth. So here, dominion is caring for the people in the way God cares for us. And if that is the dominion that we've been given over animals, then maybe we need to rethink how we treat animals at large. At least we need to pay more attention to how humans cause animals to suffer. So the Genesis passage, of course, this is kind of obvious, lays out what God had in mind for creation. A place of abundance where everyone is fed, and a place where there is no violence. And as the story goes, we humans have kind of screwed that up. So the Isaiah passage is kind of a correction to that. It's a vision for the future of what the world will one day be. That's when God's chosen one comes and kind of creates a new kind of earth. And what's sort of remarkable is the new earth looks a lot like the old earth. It looks a lot like the Garden of Eden that we've left behind. So in Isaiah's vision, there's an end of human violence, and it is a place of justice for the poor and equity for the oppressed. And even the wild animals in Isaiah's vision give up their violent ways. The wolf shall live with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the young goat. The calf and the lion will feed together. And then there's this, the cow and the bear shall graze. Their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. That's Isaiah's vision for the future. So in this new world, even lions become vegetarians. So again, I don't believe there's a hidden vegan agenda in the Bible, but I do believe that these scriptures lead us to kind of a new kind of tenderness and gentleness when it comes to how we treat animals. So we are all interrelated and interdependent, and so as much as we can live in peace with one another and in thanksgiving for one another, we should do that. And St. Francis of Assisi was one saint who saw this deeply, and so Francis called all of creation and all creatures his brothers and sisters. And there's a famous story about Francis that kind of illustrates his understanding of our relationship with animals. So in this story, a wolf is terrorizing a village, and the wolf is so ravenous that it ate not only other animals, but it was killing people of the village. And the people in the village, of course, organized to kill the wolf. But Francis just went out into the woods to find the wolf and to have a chat with it. And so Francis found the wolf and said, "Brother wolf, I want to make peace between you and the people of Gubbio. They will harm you no more, and you must no longer harm them. All past crimes are to be forgiven." And the wolf agreed to this. And if you read the whole story, it's kind of cute how the wolf and Francis communicate with each other. But the wolf agreed to this and then followed Francis back into the village, where the people then agreed to feed the wolf for the rest of his life. So violence averted by sharing food. It kind of sounds like Holy Communion. So it occurs to me that this story is a bit like the wolf becoming a pet. And while I don't believe we're going to get to a point where we're feeding wild animals and we're going to get to Isaiah's peaceable kingdom in our lifetime, I think this can sort of awaken us to have more compassion on all living beings. Our relationship with our pets can awaken us to have more compassion. And here's what I mean. So if you can love a dog or a cat or a guinea pig, you could probably love a wolf or a cow or a pig. And if you could love those creatures, you probably could love your fellow human beings. So in that way, our animals, our pets, can lead us to a place of peace. On the other hand, St. Francis taught this as a kind of warning. He said, if you have men who will exclude any of God's creatures from the shelter of compassion and pity, that is, if you have people who don't treat animals well, you will end up having men who deal likewise with their fellow men. So what he's saying here is if we learn to be harsh with animals, we will eventually be harsh with one another. So imagine that our carelessness with animals can lead us to war, but then there's this side, our love and care for animals can lead us to God's kingdom of peace. Animals, our animals, can lead us back to Eden. Thanks be to God. Amen.